What did you do to my son?
Cate, I wanted to ask you about the scene where we see Catherine, rush to the hospital and then collapse, thinking that something happened to Nicholas. What was most important for you to get right in that scene?
Well, you've been sitting with my character for quite a number of episodes with this pressure cooker of emotions and grief and rage. At a centre, the desire, a lifelong desire to protect her son from things that have happened in her past. So I knew it all had to explode in some way in those, because she goes to Stephen's house to try and be heard, to try and stop what she thinks is going to be a great damage to her son. And finally she feels that she's the absolute opposite thing has happened. Her worst nightmare has come true. But I knew that was the way Alfonso talked about the way that was going to be filmed, that it had a rhythmic build-up to it, not just in that episode, but throughout the whole series, to sort of, finally collapsing. Because until we collapse, you can't put yourself back together again.
Yeah, but in that particular scene that you're talking about when she's rushing to the hospital, I have to say that it was written in a more simple way, more simplistic way. Pretty much it was a character sitting in a car, just anxious, trying to get to the hospital, following the other one. And Cate was adamant that we needed to give her a more proactive role in the whole thing, not just being the passenger seat. And
that she couldn't be passive at that point. She this is her last chance.
And then she she came with this idea of the traffic jamming, which she just jumps out of the car to just run to the hospital to try to save her son.
When you talk about kind of releasing all the emotions, I'm thinking about the guttural cry that she lets out when she's at the hospital. How was it filming that scene? Did you, try out different cries?
You can't prepare for something like that. And it's often interesting when you think about a car crash. You often think, everyone will be going, ah! But often you have the opposite response. And so you never know what's going to happen to them. I didn't know what the other actors were going to do. And unfortunately, I'd spent quite my fair share of time in accident emergency with children. So I knew how brutal and exposing those places can be. Sitting with parents late in the night who've got children, who are not going to come out of intensive care. They're pretty particular atmospheres.
In a conventional piece, you start in the normal world. You meet the family, the happy family, going to school, blah, 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 and then whatever the crisis happens. Here we're in crisis from the very get-go. So there's very little chance to see any dynamic that is absent of this crisis. And it was this moment at the end that is the moment of release, that it was the first time that we were trying to have these characters for the first time being honest with each other. And we have very, very little time. And also, it's finally the time in which Catherine is giving her own voice, because throughout the rest of the show, she's been trying to articulate her feelings and her past, and nobody's letting her talk. Everybody's interjecting, including the judgment of the audience. And then it's at the very end, is for the first time in which she takes the role and she speaks, and now she speaks probably what she always wanted, not the words, but with the attitude that she always wanted to have with Robert. Mm-hmm. And then at the end is this moment in which finally she can be with her son, and to be honest with each other, to completely take away all the facades, to take away all masks.